What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're taking a look at two wallets from Wayfinder Carry. The Daybreaker, which is their Billfold style wallet on the left, and the Flux, which is their cardholder style wallet on the right. Now this is initial impressions and overview. We'll do a long-term review of these in a few months like we've been doing with the wallets, but for now let's get into it. So price-wise, pretty comparable. You can pick up the Flux, which again is a card holder we're seeing on the right, for $36, and the Daybreaker for $37 on Amazon. Now, both are also available directly from Wayfinder. The Flux is the exact same pricing right now. The Daybreaker was a couple dollars more, which is why I mentioned the Amazon pricing first. But of course, Amazon prices do tend to fluctuate, so I'll link to both in the description. Just check both of them and see which one's cheaper at the time. But I'm going to start off with the commonalities because these have the same materials and construction, things like that. Where they're going to differ is going to be in the dimensions and layout. So we'll start with what's the same and then get into the individual wallet. So material-wise, both are made out of a polymer-coated 420D nylon. Obviously have a decent bit of 420D nylon in the collection, but not sure if any of it's polymer-coated. They do list some really interesting properties for this polymer-coated nylon. And first is that it's waterproof. Water definitely just beads right off of this. Also that it's chemical, heat, and UV resistant. It's vegan friendly, PVC free if that's something you care about. Also machine washable, which is definitely something I'd like to test in the more long-term review, because that's something where you may run into some issues, obviously, with some wallets where maybe you end up with a frayed edge, the glue comes undone, maybe you get that bacon texture afterwards. And so not anticipating any of those, but definitely something that could go wrong in that process. So something I'd like to test for myself. They also say that it resists stretching over time, so you're not going to end up with loose pockets where the cards are shaking out or anything like that. And so not really anticipating this to get deformed in the wash, but I definitely do want to test that out. Now, another thing you may have noticed with both of these wallets is that there's no stitching. These are fully bonded, and I think that gives it a really nice, clean look. And I don't think I've really had any sort of issues with durability with bonded materials, especially where it's well done. And this looks to be very well done. I don't see anything where it's loose or anything, at least out of the box. And so hopefully won't see any of that down the line. Now, last thing to look at that's the same on both these wallets is just going to be their logo and that billboarding. And I think this is very tastefully done. You can see the Wayfinder logo is completely blacked out, and so not really in your face, but it's still very visible. And the logo is really not something that's going to make or break a sale for me, but it is something where it might end up being a negative point in the wallet's favor, like we saw with that Right in the Rain. And so although I'm not going to buy a wallet off the logo, I think this one's tastefully done, and I appreciate that. Now, in terms of the layout on these, obviously the card holder is going to be the smaller of the two, and I definitely prefer a more minimal wallet, but I do think there's a place for billfolds. In fact, I have quite a few different shows coming up where I'm going to be carrying cash. I don't typically on my daily driver carry cash, and so a card holder is perfectly fine for me. This does have a middle slot that could accommodate a folded bill or two, but it's a little bit of a tight fit. Now, this Flux is rated for 11 cards, and so like any wallet, when they give you that listing, that's really the maximum it can carry, not the suggested it should carry. And I feel like with 11 cards, it's going to be a pretty tight fit. I have a handful of cards. There's probably actually 11 cards in here, but a lot of them aren't credit cards, so they're a lot slimmer. It's probably the equivalent of maybe 6 or 7 cards, and that keeps it very, very slim and still able to access all of those cards pretty easily. Right now, fully loaded out as it is, it's still just a hair under 1 centimeter thick, and so not super thick. In terms of the regular dimensions, we're looking at about 2.6 inches high and 4.35 inches wide. So definitely a little bit wider than those credit cards to make room for that bonding process. Also so that you can slide a little bit in there and it's not too tight. So in the front pocket, I have a few cards up front. Looks like a single credit card as well as an ID here. And so those fit in there very easily, easy to separate them, get them in and out. It's not too tight where it's makes it difficult to get them separated. Also not just going to dump out, even partially out, those aren't falling out. And so we'll get those out of the way. You'll see this one has some marks on it. I have carried this one for a few days, not enough to form a full opinion on it, but I have started carrying this one, so it has a few more marks than the other. On the back side, we have another pocket. You can see no branding or logos or anything on the back. On this one, I have a couple more cards as well as an RFID blocker. Now, I don't believe these are RFID blocking. They sell their own version of this RFID blocker card. I just put one of my own in there because I already had one. But if you do want those, they sell those on the site. I'm not sure about Amazon. I haven't checked every one of their products if they're all listed on Amazon or not. But you can see how much slimmer we've gotten already. Then we have that middle pocket, which you can put more cards. It definitely fits credit cards. It fits folded bills. You can use it for receipts and stuff like that. I just put a couple of these Grim Workshop tip card type cards. And so I have 5 of those. Those are still probably thinner than a credit card, so I wouldn't count that as a credit card. In fact, if we add our RFID blocker, we're getting close to about the thickness of a credit card. We still might just be a little bit thinner. And so this is the equivalent of 5 or 6 cards max. But now you can see it fully empty and a lot of real estate in there. You can also see this material is pretty flexible, and so there's a lot of give to it, which I think will help with the overall durability. I wouldn't imagine this tearing or getting any really solid creases on it, especially with it fully loaded out. And so I think that lends really nice to the durability of these wallets. But you can see I fit a decent amount in here. This is actually a lot more than I would carry on a daily basis. And so it can hold a decent amount being a minimalist front pocket wallet. Now getting onto the billfold, I don't carry a lot of billfolds unless I'm going somewhere that needs cash, and this one can accommodate a decent bit of cash. And so right now I have about 5 bills on there. I've tested it with I think up to 12 bills, which is all I had at the time, but it could definitely fit more. You can also see dimension wise, it has room for larger bills here. And so for US bills, it seems like a little bit overkill, but I'm imagining that's to accommodate some foreign currencies, which are maybe just a little bit taller. The other nice thing about it being so tall though, is you can see enclosed, none of those are sticking up or getting dog-eared or anything like that. Just kind of looks sloppy sometimes when the bills are sticking out of the wallet, and none of those are sticking out because it is a decent bit taller. So the height on this one is 3.46 inches, and closed is about 4.45 inches, but it opens all the way up to 8.9 inches. And so you can see on either side we have a decent bit of space for more bills. Already mentioned, I think there's 5 bills in there. One thing that's interesting is you can just hold it by these bills. It's pretty tactile and grippy material, and so you can just hold it by those bills. You really do have to kind of separate it to pull those out so your bills are nice and secure in there, not going to fall out. You only have 2 card slots here, one on either side. They say this one can accommodate up to 16 cards, but again, I wouldn't really want 16 cards in here. I think it would get pretty tight. I didn't even have 16 cards to test it with, at least blanks, and so I didn't put that many in there. It definitely can accommodate more than I have in here, but wanted to keep it nice and snug, but where you can also just kind of fan it out if you want to see what cards are in there. So I put 3 per side. And so same thing on this one. I have 3 on the left here, as well as 3 more on the right, although one of these is those RFID blockers that I had mentioned earlier. We'd have a glow card. This one's actually a little bit thicker than a credit card, so combined these are about 2 cards. So again, I went with about 6 cards in here. You can fit more, but I'm just never going to be carrying that many cards, and you can definitely stuff more in either side. So if you do carry more cards than that, I probably wouldn't get up to 16. I've seen reviews where they mentioned with 16 cards in there, it's pretty tight and difficult to get them out. But now that this is empty, you can see again how slim this one is, almost the equivalent of the slimness of this. Obviously it's a little bit thicker being a billfold, but really, really thin and super flexible as well. This also has this kind of seam in the middle, so it's not any stitching or anything like that. I think they're just kind of rebonded right here in the middle. Because it's so much wider, they don't want to leave it where it starts to separate or anything like that, so it's just bonded again in the middle. But really nice construction here as well, no stitches or anything like that. Both of these are extremely lightweight. Now that we're empty, we're looking at about 0.6 ounces on the card holder, 1.3 ounces, so just a little bit over double on the Daybreaker. But overall, cool wallets. I'm excited to do some more long-term testing on them. Let me know your thoughts on these down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, definitely consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and hitting the notification button. If you'd like to see that long-term review, definitely make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification button so you see when that goes live. But thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.